Hello everyone and welcome to this reflection on Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I've got to cover the expansion Shivering Isles, which leaves me what I want to talk about first. Morrowind was an alien landscape, truly high fantasy, like mushroom trees, swamps, strange creatures. You've never ever seen an environment like Morrowind in a video game before. And in Oblivion is generic medieval fantasy. There are elves, orcs, goblins, forest, snow, and it's generic. It is no different to stuff found in Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, to say. And as much as I enjoyed the game playing Oblivion, it was generic. And the quests and the guilds also felt generic like that. It still felt medieval fantasy. In Skyrim, they actually mix both Morrowind and Oblivion together to create something alien as well as relatable, as in Oblivion. And Oblivion, coincidentally or not, was one of the first games, one of the first Elder Scrolls games to appear on the console. Morrowind will later follow, and people accuse of Bethesda Softworks, the makers of the game, to pandering that market. They wanted something relatable, they wanted something that you recognize. But from a fantasy fan point of view, it lacks something. It lacks energy. It lacks variety. So what if there are monsters straight out of life? There's a Minotaur, for God's sakes, out of Greek mythology, as one of the enemies you can find in Oblivion. The Hell Dimension, called Oblivion, which is wrong. It's actually called the Deadlands. Oblivion is a plane of existence where all the never mind. I can geek out about that. It's generic hell from Christian mythology. Or some kind of medieval fantasy. Demonic weapons, fire, pools of lava. It's generic. And that's pretty much what I had to say about it. It was generic to me. And the faces of the elves and the beastmen, they were hideous. Let me tell you, they were freaking hideous. They were pretty damn ugly. Now the physics is one of the best parts of Oblivion. The physics are really, really good. Arrows actually bounce off walls. You can adjust the center of gravity. It was really, really well done. So the combat is much more improved than Morrowind was. And you still have that problem where you have to backpedal in order to defeat your opponent to slash about. So on reflection, what really made Oblivion stand out was the Shivering Isles. It basically put a little bit of Morrowind into Oblivion. He added a new landmass, a plane of Oblivion called the Shivering Isles, and had mushroom trees just like Morrowind, but that isn't a similarity. It added variety. It wasn't as milquetoast, to use that term. It wasn't as creatively dull. It wasn't as generic in Oblivion as the rest of Cyrodiil was in Oblivion. So it reintroduced that higher fantasy stuff, especially like the lands of dementia and mania, different colors, swirling skies, lots of strange creatures, and the NPCs are well written in the Shivering Isles expansion pack. Most of them are experiencing range of madness, from psychotic rage to OCD. It was really well done. I liked Shivering Isles a lot more than I liked the base game of Oblivion. And it says something when you prefer the DLC to the vanilla version of an existing video game. I don't know what to say, but I do prefer the DLC of Oblivion than Oblivion itself. And, you know, as I tried to like convince other people to play it, like my brother and my other friends, to play Oblivion, but they too found it generic. And that, you know, the first stage where you're fighting rats, they said to me, literally, they said to me, is that all you do? You're fighting rats? And of course you don't, of course you don't. You don't fight rats the entire game. You fight minotaurs and demonic ghosts and all sorts of things. But it's still generic. And some of the judges are generic, and this is what you're saying. So it took DLCs to make Oblivion feel more varied, more cultured, more fascinating, more interesting than stuff that I've already seen before. But, you know, without Oblivion you couldn't play Shivering Isles in the first place. So, yeah, it's a tad disappointing when I prefer the DLCs to the main game. Perhaps it says something about me instead of the game, that I prefer variety. But I have a feeling that most of you may feel the same way. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the main quest. In Morrowind and in Skyrim, you play as the hero, the grand hero. You are the guy. You are the one who's savior of the world. You are the ultimate badass. You cannot be beaten. But in Oblivion, you play as the helper of the guy, the hero. The hero, Martin Septon, as played by Sean Bean. And you help him, and he's the main hero. He's the one that sacrificed his life to save Tamriel, to save Cyrodiil. And you're essentially playing second. It's his story more than yours, and I like that. It's one of the few games in the series that does that. In the Shivering Isles, you do essentially become, spoiler alert, the mad god himself, Sheogorath. And you're still not the guy. You're not the most powerful person in existence. And although Sheogorath is one of the most powerful Daedra in the setting, your character does it because they had to. They had to take on this mantle. At the end of every era, the Shivering Isles gets destroyed, and the previous Sheogorath wants you to stop it once and for all. And I like in how Skyrim, in one of the quests, spoiler alert, you get to meet Sheogorath again, and he looks and sounds like the original Sheogorath, be it with Skyrim-like graphics, but he makes small references that you are the player character from Oblivion, and I like that. Oblivion has many things going for it. The combat is good, the crafting is good, alchemy is great, enchanting is great, and several dungeons are pretty fun to explore. Oh, I'll take a sip of orange juice. I must make mention of the Dark Brotherhood storyline, which I think is one of the most interesting storylines in video games, and I think is a lot more interesting than the ones found in Skyrim or in Morrowind. And it considers betrayal, and it's a wonderful quest line. Yes, you're in assassination guilds, but the variety in assassination is what's key to making it more fascinating. You can drop like elk heads on people, you can poison them with poison apples. Just really good stuff. I won't spoil it for you, because I think, dear viewer, if you're watching this, you should pick up a copy of Oblivion and play the Dark Brotherhood storyline yourself, questline yourself, even if you do play it as a essentially good character. And I found the Dark Brotherhood storyline in Oblivion really, really good. So that's all I have to say about The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I'm not going to give you a rating. I'm just going to say that if you are planning on buying it, it's a very good entry point, at least an entry point in the Elder Scrolls before you head into Morrowind or Skyrim. Good combat, good level design, all sort of thing. The world is a bit generic, but please, if you can, get to DLCs, Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine if you wish. I wish I could talk about Knights of the Nine, but I don't have time. So, very good game, little bit generic, but if you're looking for an entry point into the Elder Scrolls, then I can think of nothing better than Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. And it's got Sean Bean as a voice. Thank you for watching. Good night.